All right, everyone, and welcome to our latest edition of Reviving Something with CKGAA. So tonight we're going to relive the 2000 Junior Hurling campaign. So we're going to have an exciting night going through it. I know some of you are still struggling with the lack of sport and all at home. So again, the club's doing our best to get something that you can watch and tangible and a bit of sport. It's not new, it's not live, but it's the best we can do right now. So I have a few great guests here with me to go through it all, so I'll just introduce them quickly. The first one is Ed Beresford. Say hello, Ed.
Hello there.
Next we have Karl O'Keeffe coming from Dublin. How are you, Karl?
Very good, Johnny. Thanks for having us there tonight.
Brilliant. And last but not least, all the way from San Francisco, Brian Tiger Bomber O'Neill. How are things, Bomber?
Doing good, Johnny. Thanks for asking.
Great. So we're going to get right into it, lads. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about quickly where hurling was at the time in the club. So coming into 2000, what it looked like. So we're coming off the back of winning the intermediate football championship the previous year. So I suppose football was at a high in the club, but we'd been battling away in junior hurling for a good number of years and been relatively competitive. So I suppose Tiger, I'll start with you. We're back in '93, we lost unluckily to Kilmac in a junior hurling county final. I suppose we were there or thereabouts then for the next 7 years until we finally got over the line, weren't we?
Yeah, it was interesting back then. You know, I remember after that game, I was only 16, 17. We were in the dressing room. You know, it was quiet, but some guys were there. We'll be back next year. We'll win this next year. You know, but when you forwarded to 2000. There was only about 4 or 5 lads from that panel still there. You know, it took us so long to get back. We thought we'd be back straight away. But, you know, things don't go to plan. You lose players go abroad, things like that. But, yeah, it was different. You know, it was different, from 93 to 2000. The team, the hurling, the style of hurling was completely different. And the grounds were getting better. Or you're smiling at something there, Johnny. That's my pet shark, lads. We all need a lone shark at these times, I think.
Well, that's the beauty of live television, lads. We probably would have got there sooner. We had a couple of close battles with our nearest neighbours. The Jurlines gave us a couple of hard goings over, didn't we? I'd say we lost them 2-3 years in between 93 and 0-0, didn't we? They were the ones that put a stop to our success in the junior over and over again.
Is that me?
Johnny, yeah. It's me, is it?
Yeah, Ned, yeah.
Yeah, Johnny, they were kind of they were a bit our bogey team, all right. There's no doubt about that. I think Alan McCarthy actually tells me they still have a bit of a bee in their bonnet about us winning it without meeting them along the way. But I suppose there was nothing we could only beat who was put in front of us. And I suppose as Timmy had said, the reality of life is they couldn't beat Ardmore in a semi-final, and we put them to the sword in the final. So that's the way it was. But yeah, definitely we were knocking on the door with, I'd say I had definitely won. The lads might know better. I definitely had one Western final last, if not 2. You know, before, which is similar to the 2018 team actually. You know, they were knocking on the door for a couple of years before they eventually got over the line. So the 2 teams were very similar in that aspect. There wasn't both teams were thereabouts.
Definitely. Karl, I suppose you were, at the time, I suppose football would have been your first sport anyway. I suppose the club would have been traditionally a footballing club. From your own recollection, where was hurling seen? In that given year, I think we crashed out of the football pretty early, the senior football, to Dungarvan the same weekend we played our first championship game against Kilgobnet. So, where was up to that point? You remember, were we Stonewall Football Club up to that point where we crashed out, or was hurling, was there an equal footing at that stage in the club?
Yeah, I suppose I was one of the newer players coming on to the junior team and to the senior football team. I think in senior football, I played my first senior game that year. And we had a relatively successful year. We retained senior status, and that was important. We did crash out, I think, on the Friday night of the championship against Dungarvan, and on the Sunday, we did tog out in hurling. And for dual clubs, that's very hard to do, to chop and change and to get the training right and to get your first touch right. And I think that's what probably didn't serve us in good form for that Sunday game. That first game we lost against Kilgobnet. But you know, once the football was secured, I suppose, in terms of the senior status, the club did focus very strongly on the hurling and put us in a good state to motivate us for the rest of the season. And you know, winning county finals is all about the little things, and that was possibly worked in our favour that year. But can I pick up on Tiger's point on he was 16 back in 93? I think reading the AGM notes from that year in 2000, the under 16 team that followed probably learnt a lot from the season in 2000, and those 16-year-olds are probably still there playing today, like Mark McGrath, Jason Seward, Kieran Connery, all of those. So it's interesting that Tiger reflects back to 93 and what motivated him for 2000. In 2000, the under 16s won hurling championship that year, and you could see that, I suppose, the club was gaining more success, and that was probably a lot to do with the underage structures. You know, the likes of Liam O'Rourke, Liam O'Donnell, who were training, Peter Power going into the schools, concentrating on skills. Hurling was definitely coming more popular within the club, and people were developing their skills. I'm not sure a whole lot of skill set was shown out on the day in November, but it set us in good stead, I suppose, for the club going forward.
Absolutely. So, quickly, let's have a look at the path to this game that we're going to be looking at in a minute, the county final. So, our path that year we were lucky. We started with a really good stroke of luck. It was the first year that it was backdoor, and by God did we need it, because we lost Kilgobnet first day out, and a scoreline of Kilgobnet 2-4, Clashmore 6 points. Then we rallied through the West, scraping past Turin, it had to be said, on a scoreline of 14 points to 12. Then we did an easy enough quarter final against Dungarvan, where we won on a scoreline of 3-7 to 3 points. The semi-final then was against Kilgobnet again, so we got over the line, this time in a scoreline of 7 points to 6, before we met our old enemy in the final, Ardmore. But let's have a quick look through those games I've just spoken about. Ed, you were talking about that Turin game earlier when we were just going through the notes. We were lucky that day. The whole thing could have been gone up in smoke at the first hurdle, really, couldn't it?
God, yeah, the Turin game. I'd compare it a bit to the Stradbally game in 2018. That's the best way I could put it. Like, you know, we were lucky to win that night too. If that hurdle lad had his radar on, we were in trouble. You know, the same way with that Turin game, we were. I can't remember. Did Budsy save it, or there was something? He should have got a goal. I think it was Budsy saved it. It was in the last few minutes, and we only won by 2 points. Like, it was, we didn't play well that night. Now, you know, but I suppose we got over the line. You know, which has to be done, I suppose. But definitely, yeah, the Turin game. The best way I could describe it was to compare it to that Stradbally game in 2018. That's the best way I could describe it. It was one of those matches, you know.
It was interesting. I was looking back at the notes on that game. It kind of it showed, I suppose, a little bit, Karl, on where the where hurling was in the club at the time. We obviously were carrying a fair panel. Like, I looked at it that day, and like, on top of the team that started and even the subs that came on in the Western and the county final, that day against Turin, you had such players as Nicholas O'Connell, Barry Dunn, Mike Hines, Paddy Allen, Roger and Ger Ryan, and Shiner Allen, and Michael Cliff. Like, that's an extra 7-8 players that weren't even weren't used in the county final. It must have been good to be training. We had a big panel at the time. Would you agree, Karl?
Yeah, actually, it was. I think there was a lot of competitions. Maybe there was a backlog in earlier in the year. There was a lot of competitions. I think there were 60 adult competitions that year, and it feels as though half of them were played off in a 3-month time frame. That kind of goes. Well, I suppose there's been a lot of improvements in terms of the fixture organisation, but clubs tend to target that end of the year, and it was important to have all those players available. I think I started college that year, and a lot of those players would have been around college, and they would have been trying to make various teams. There was an under-21 championship going on as well within the club. We were playing under-21 hurling, so there was quite a lot of training going on. There was quite a lot of competition for various places, which ultimately led to improved skill within the club and improved competition, that all these players were filtering up into the scene, to the junior, to the adult teams. But yeah, that and it's important to have a significant panel if you're to win anything. You need a strong panel, and you need to be able to be flexible in your team in terms of moving players in and out and covering. I think we had a lot of injuries that year as well. I know Mike Hines picked up a bad injury that year, and he would have been a main stalwart to that team. And I think most clubs feared Mike and feared playing him. God knows, we feared training with him, but we got used to it, and maybe that toughened us up and put us in a good state for what to expect in junior hurling. But certainly, yeah, in that Turin game, I suppose it was important to get that win, and with that came, succession of good trainings, a number of injuries, probably led to a slightly different team then, which kind of settled down. And as the competition got thick and fast towards the end, you saw that it was important to carry that big panel of players to win.
Very, very much so. I suppose that's enough of the flirting around the issue. Now on to the main event, the Western Final. If we'd a video of that, we wouldn't bother with the county final, sure, because
there's one available.
Ever involved in. So got one over in the old enemy, Ardmore. How sweet was it, Tiger? The best game you were ever involved in?
Oh, I'd say so. Like, the build up to that game was unbelievable. Like, the village was on crazy with buntings and colours all over the place, But just go back to what Karl said there about the panel. Like, the first game we played against Kilgobnett, we were missing 7 players. We didn't have James Kelly, Kevin O'Rourke, Vincent O'Rourke, Mike Fenton and Conor River were injured because of the Friday night game of football. They didn't play. I think Seamus Rourke wasn't there. There were some players that had on to that Western Final team, and Brian Murray, we got him back from America for that game. So there was controversy over that, whether he was in on time or not, but we got over it, but that game, geez, that was a sweet victory. Roger said after the county final it was better than 6. That game was better than 6.
But it's the little things, like...
Sorry, Ed, what were your recollections of that Ardmore game?
It was a brilliant Asher, as good as win as I ever had, in my own playing career, without a doubt. Plus they weren't a bad, they were a very good Ardmore team. They went on it was a great win in that sense that they went on and they proved themselves to be a very good team after they went off. They accounted for themselves well after they went on to senior hurling and you know, it was a great win in that aspect, like, you know. No doubt about
They
it.
were a coming team at the time. They were young. They were coming, but on their own notes, you know, they did a lot of complaining about the game coming into all the games they played 4 weeks in a row. But everyone was the same, like, and the conditions were terrible for everybody. Like I remember coming into the county final, the weather, I said, was bad for a month, and even Shamey hadn't said afterwards, like, you wouldn't put dogs out into training with it, and it's easy for and we can start complaining about it, but at least we got over the line. I know that was a sweet victory, lads.
I suppose, like, in fairness, coming to man, like, I don't need a video of Conor Reardon's wonder goal it plays as fresh in my mind right now as it did all those years ago. Carl, it was probably the best finish ever seen in Beresford, I suppose, is the only way you could describe it, isn't it?
Outstanding. And like Conor, you know, he needn't do anything else from that game. He was number one hurler that year for that goal. It was an outstanding goal. I think, you know, go back to Tiger in the media, reading some of the articles, the seas departed and the Ardmore players went down, but that was probably because of the reputation of Conor. And you know, he played some hurling. He didn't say it himself. He's not number one hurler, but he played some outstanding stuff that year and contributed to the overall success. I mean, he actually scored quite regularly. So, fair play, Conor. Well done.
Even what made it better there, he'll deny this, but we didn't have more men in goals first. And they were even like, he's always saying he's addressing. If you look, you just seen on the GA notes there from back then after the Turin game, there was a little piece up about the lotto winners, and Seamus' sister won $10 or something on it, Martina, and the address was there more. So, but see, there's no denying it now, man.
Roger famously was quoted directly after the county final as saying that the team visited him on the Tuesday after the Ardmore game. What were given that there was only a week's turnaround between the Western final and the final, and Roger got visited on the Tuesday, what were the preparations like building up to that county final, lads? Tiger, what do you think about it?
In fairness, we only had teen sandwiches in Rogers that day. You know, we were thinking ahead. on the Monday, I'd say we went back training on the Tuesday, on the Friday. I don't remember much about it now, but I know what Shamey was saying, like, the water conditions were fucking terrible. Like, excuse the French, but it's vague enough now to build. You know, I just remember the celebrations afterwards and going to Ballyduff and all that crack.
Ed, you'd be known for being cool, calm, and collected at the best of times. How did that week go for you to build up to that junior county final as captain?
Yeah. I suppose the fact that there was only a week between the two games, I suppose we were straight into it. You know, like it was the win against Ardmore. You were celebrating it, and we did celebrate it fairly well, and. But then you were straight into it again. I don't think, we were all young and fit, and I don't think a couple of points like that does fellas no harm. You know, I'm not big into that anyway. So, you know, we were ready to go again the following Sunday. There was no
brilliant. So, at that, let's have a look at the first half of that county final, and we'll reconvene after that and have a chat and see how things were going. All right.
Hello here and welcome to the Beresford, to the Junior County Final. The 19th of November 2000. The ball played into Donald Fitz. Donald Fitz out first. The fall. Mike Shalhoub whips in. The ball comes over to Stephen Byrne. Stephen Byrne has it. Stephen Byrne 30 yards out. The ball across field. The ball tailing the breeze, carrying it wide. The ball gone wide. And the ball pucked out. The breeze holding it up. Kevin O'Rourke under there, batting it down. Jamie O'Rourke is out first to the ball. Jamie O'Rourke has the ball in the hand. Jamie O'Rourke going goalwards. Jamie O'Rourke still going. He's on the 20. He passes across to Mike Shalhoub. Mike Shalhoub has the ball in the hand. The shot from Mike Shalhoub and a great opening start from Clashmore. And Clashmore off to a great start. The point to no score to Clashmore. Graham wearing the white helmet pucks it out. Down here he's coming again to Stephen Byrne's side. Stephen Byrne here tossing Philip D out first. Philip D gets a good touch. Stephen has it. Stephen is after passing his man. Stephen has the ball in the hand. Stephen going goalwards. Stephen finds Mike Shalhoub. Mike Shalhoub has it. Mike Shalhoub again. Yes, Mike Shalhoub, 2 points already from play. A great start for Clashmore playing with this strong breeze. This breeze surely worth 4 or 5 points today. Graham gathers it inside, delivers the clearance downfield. Michael Fenton is over. Michael Fenton has the ball in the hand. A wet cut by Michael Fenton. A big ball in by Michael Fenton. A ball and a great point from the man that was meant to be in Australia, but he's here today in Fairfield. A marvellous point by the green helmet, Michael Fenton. Graham very busy in these opening stages. 3 points to no score. Couldn't be a better start from Clashmore. Graham drives the ball out. Oh, he's gone to chase rings this time. Shamie Rock has the ball in the hand. Shamie Rock is going goalwards. Shamie Rock. Yes, 4 points to no score. Clashmore are totally on top in these early stages. Shamie Rock is destroying that corner back over there. I'm sure it's Tom O'Neill. The full-back takes the puck out. Here he pucks it out to Shamie Rock. Shamie Rock goes across. He's going inside. This is dangerous. He passes the ball out to Kevin O'Rourke has the ball in the hand. It must be. It is a point for Kevin O'Rourke. A great point for Kevin O'Rourke. His father was playing in the 69 team and he's matched it today with a great point. Costin coming in now. The ball is thrown in. Clashmore pulling hard. Breaks out Jed Beresford. It's half time. It's half time here on Fairfield. The score at half time is 6 points to 1-1. 4 points to 6. Clashmore with a 2-point lead. A lot to do in the second half playing against the stiff breeze, but I'm sure Clashmore will come out with all guns blazing in the second half. They're going to have to lift it, but I have no doubt they will. Yes, John Hunt throws the ball in here and the second half is on. Finner wins the first pull inside, the first pull, and Beresford is out first, bends. The ball in the hand, no, the ball is on the ground. And Beresford in there, helped by Shane McGrath. The ball has gone into the full forward, the man, the dangerous man Burns. Oh, definitely wins a soft free there, John Hunt, definitely. Do Clashmore no favours. Gives a soft free there to John Burns. 3 subs on already at this early stage. Karl O'Keeffe is a big drive inside. He's going to find Michael Fenton. A super ball by Karl O'Keeffe. Michael Fenton turns into trouble. Michael Fenton is going goalwards. Michael Fenton on the 21. He gives it outside to Paddy Lambert. Paddy Lambert strikes. Off the post, and it breaks kindly to the better fullback, Stephen Burns. Stephen Burns driving out the field. Finney rises. Karl O'Keeffe, yes. Dominant big Karl O'Keeffe tries the forward. Murray, a big pull from Murray. Here's Mike Shalhoub pats the forward. Fenton pulling hard. It breaks out to the 15. Fenton is on. Philip D. Kevin O'Rourke on back, going back. Kevin O'Rourke, yes. Breaks the Shamie Rourke. Lovely touch by Shamie. It's a side think he's helping him. Tim is a dumble on me here on the stand. Shamie Rourke is going forward with the ball. He's going goalwards. He comes back outside. He's been well hooked. He's pulling hard. Think he's in to help him. It's a sideline ball. Could go anywhere. It's going to Finner.
Thanks, Alan, for that fantastic commentary. The first half, where lads, we were under pressure. We were 2 points up, 6 points to 1-2 at half time after playing with a hurricane. What was the feeling like in that dressing room at half time, Ed? Did we feel like we were after leaving ourselves at a mountain to climb? Did you feel confident? What way were you?
Johnny, I was watching the highlights there myself during the week when I knew this was coming up, and to be honest with you, I remember saying to the lads, we were after winning the football the year before, and I just remember telling the lads, I remember the crack. I don't know if the two lads might remember this. I don't know if I remember the crack we had when we won the football. 30 minutes away from it again. Dig deep, and we can do it. You know, it can be done, and that's what we did. Like, you know, I often talking to the current lads, and you know, it's about grinding it out, like, you know, and that's all it was. The conditions weren't good anyway, so you know, that was basically
It was horrendous out there, wasn't it? It was a horrible weather in that first half. How did you feel walking into that dressing room at half time? Were you nervous, or were you kind of quietly confident?
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer. We lost the toss, if I'm right, and they elected to play against the wind. And with that, I suppose there's the psychology of, okay, the first half you have to race ahead and be as far ahead as possible. What way is the wind? Should you be about 6 or 7 points ahead? But it's kind of, you know, it's junior football. You know, nobody was going to win it by 20 points. It was soft underfoot conditions. It was a battle. I think at half time, I was just glad to get in and take a break. But I guess as backs, and you're talking to 3 backs here tonight, we knew we had a tough battle in the second half. I mean, we knew it was going to be constant raining, the slithers down on top of us. Like, the forwards did very well in the first half. I think they you know, we had a lot of wides, but we had some good scores as well. Like, it could have been worse. It could have been better, but we knew, I suppose, that we needed to knuckle down as a unit, and particularly the backs as a unit. We knew that, you know, if we were going to win this was going to be a dogfight in the second half.
Bomber, who took control of that dressing room? Who was doing the talking in there at half time?
Mostly Shamey Hannon, I'd say. Jonny, you know, he had a good authority. Like, he had a great career himself. And since '93, everyone in that dressing room looked up to him. You know, going to the game, like going in ourselves there at halftime. Yeah, we should have had a bigger lead. Like, I think we kind of dominated most of that first half. We had a lot of wides, a lot of bad wides, and few sloppy scores. Even from their own puckouts, they were only reaching their own 45, and they were falling into our hands. We weren't capitalising on them, you know. But yeah, going in, like, all the backs kind of spoke to each other in there, and the midfield. The midfield that day was outstanding. Like, Stephen's second half, I'd say, was one of the best games he had in a long time, you know. But the backs, yeah, we got together inside the dressing room before Shamey came in, and we just had a little chat, like, you know, it's going to be a serious dogfight, as Ed always says, like, you know. But I think we gelled together there, like, the high balls that were coming in, you know, they were dealt with. Like, Karl had a serious second half that day. He was grabbing high balls coming in, and there's kind of there's a coincidence the way it happened. I was in the corner, my man went out centre forward, and Karl followed his man in, who was, like, he was way taller than me. He was 6'3" or something. So the switch kind of worked in our favour. Now going back, you know, kind of dominated the cornerback position, where I was kind of outfield a bit out of the way.
Ed, you remember Philip D came in that day for the start. He hurled out of his skin there in the first half, didn't he?
Oh, sure, Philip. What a servant for the club, you know. He was still involved when we won in intermediate last year. He was still on the pedal. Like, he's just, as Tom D said, Tom, his brother, was the best man for his wedding. He does what it says in the tin. It's exactly what Philip does. You know, he's just what a servant. Unbelievable.
Absolutely. So at that, we'll go back and we'll see the second half of this game, and we'll have more of a chat with the lads afterwards. So stay tuned. Back to you, Alan.
Hunt there. He is throwing the ball in. A correct decision there by John Hunt. The ball, Murray. Yes, Murray is starting to go now. A big ball in from Murray. Yes, the goal! Oh, for Clashmore! Yes, that man Shamey Rock. I'm riding on. I'm after busting my head up here. Don't ask me what's going on. I'm after creasing myself. Jeez, but I got that goal. Clashmore just needed that. It was coming with a long time. It's 1-6 till after opening a 4-point lead all of a sudden. Just that in your horn. Stephen Mann pulls across the field. Murray's throwing everything into it. Murray's wearing new boots today. He comes to the right triangle on Hill. Yes, the man from Arsenal drives it forward. Fenton, oh yes, Fenton, it was so cute. The man from Australia. Conor Reardon also meant to be in Australia. Play his heart out today. Breaks to Mike Shalhoub. Mike Shalhoub trying everything. The phenomenon whips forward. Yes, the captain is out. Oh, the captain is about to. Karl O'Keeffe. Karl O'Keeffe. The ref is blowing the Clashmore man down the middle of the field. Karl O'Keeffe doing extremely well there. Covering unbelievable ground. Fenner gets the breaks and it comes out. Ed Beresford is out first for this one. Yes, he is back to his old. He bursts out. The captain is out. The captain is out in the middle of the field. There leaves a lovely ball to Stephen Brown. Stephen Brown reaches to the cloud. Collects it. Oh my God, she's going all the way over the ball. We've seen points before. We've seen a great point last week. But this one must be the one against the wind. The inter-county man has scored. The Fenner are panicking. We have him rattled. Fenner taking this one. Oh, brilliant sideline cut. Hinting it out of danger. Now I know Neil has it. What's the dangerous one for Shamey Watts? Oh, he's done ever so well. A low clearance down the field. He finds Stephen Brown brilliantly. Stephen Brown has it. First touch on, but brilliant. Plays a brilliant ball down to Paddy Lambert. Paddy Lambert out first. Pushing it back, maybe no. Play goes on. Pulls forward. Michael Fenton is out first. Miles in front of the centre back. Michael Fenton always should be in Australia today, but delivers the ball in. Into his Australia colleague, Conor Reardon. Conor Reardon. And Jamie Rourke delivers so well. They've won it between them. Playing across the way. Oh, yes. Mike Shalhoub is going on. Oh, it's so unlucky there for Mike Shalhoub. It must have went about 7 inches wide. A wide could be as good as a point at this stage. About 4 minutes left. Less 3 minutes left, maybe a minute of entry time. The Fenner goalie has it above. Oh, just poked out already. Just poked out. Sullivan, the captain, has it. Video Rourke all the way from Heathrow Airport this morning. Falls to Philip D. Philip D drives the ball forward. A beautiful ball to Paddy Lambert. Paddy Lambert is going then. Delivers a big one inside. It's going. Oh, over the bar. Yes, Paddy Lambert won 2 the last day. He's off the mark today. A point and a half. He had it banned. Comes to Tommy O'Mahony. Tommy O'Mahony. It was a big ground. John Hunt, I don't know what to do. About 20 minutes. Oh no! It's drawn. Buzzy on it! Buzzy at double save! Beresford captain, fantastic! He's out with the ball! The captain! Aiming to be a fierce pro man tonight! Gives it to Kevin O'Rourke! Kevin O'Rourke down the field! Jerry Dinky O'Rourke is after discarding their helmet! Stephen Barrett wins the vital trick. Kevin O'Rourke fights out. Tiger O'Neill! Oh! The clearance one a lot. John Hunt! It must be up. What is John Hunt doing? We're not too sure. He'll have to blow it. 31 years. 31 years gap to be bridged. The phenomenon gets a good connection. He's hitting him well all day. Murray! The man from America! Flies it down. Dinky battle wicket. Hard to get that one. Shamey Rourke threw everything into it. Dinky has it. Kick it, Dinky! John Hunt, what are you doing, man? I don't know, there's been injury time we played before in this field, but this beats them all out. Wait, well, Conor back for Fenner, drives it well away down the field. There's only breaking to Murray. Now Murray plays it. Yes! A 31-year gap has been bridged at Clashmore, county champions, the Millennium County champions. Clashmore, the Millennium County champions. 1 years. 1969 since they last won it.
Clashmore, they came into this final on the back of a half game last Sunday, but thanks to their officers and club mentors, they were well prepared for today. They gave an outstanding display. I suppose at half time their case didn't look that good, but in the second half they turned in a super effort. So again, I'd like to congratulate and compliment them. I hope that they'll be a tremendous asset in intermediate grades in the year 2001. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to present the trophy to our captain, I'm going to start with last 2 or 3 years we've had more or less the same selectors in this team. They've done an outstanding job in those 2 or 3 years. And today, I hope we can't thank them enough, but I hope today will make some way to beat us. Those 4 selectors are Matty Curran, Billy Howard, Pat Dawson, and Mike Shalhoub. 7 years ago, there was a great Clashmore team went down to Wales to play county final and lost by a narrow margin. They had a great trainer who happens to be the great trainer of this team as well. And it says a lot from when he's brought 2 teams to a county final. We said last Sunday that hopefully we go one better. Well, Shamie Hannon, we have. I'd also like to thank all the supporters. You were outstanding last Sunday against Ardmore. You were even better today. This is a great team performance, but I'd like to mention a couple of players who really stood out between us all. First of all, probably the greatest clubman of all time in Clashmore. The greatest. One of his last year, but I think we'll get another year or 2 out of him. But I think we'll get another year. Another year or 2 out of him. Another player, probably one of the coolest players and one of the best that I've ever played alongside, James Kelly. And another player, he got injured earlier on in the year. They said his career was ended. He was back training within 2 weeks. Captain of that team 7 years ago, Mike Hines. And lastly, I want to congratulate our wish winner. Best of luck next year. You're a great team. We really thought we were a bit up. We really knew we had a lot to do in the second half. And we came out and you were a great team and great performance. And I wish you the best next year. 3 cheers for Finner. Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip! Thank you very much.
Well, that went better than expected by the end of the first half, didn't it? We really grounded out well there in the second half. Some jubilant scenes afterwards. Some massive performances on the day. I thought, obviously the first thing we had to get to Seamus O'Rourke's goal. Tiger, what did you think of that? It was some flick, wasn't it?
It was a great finish, Johnny. Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, to double on the ball like that coming across him, But like all the forwards in the second half, their work rate was outstanding. Like as soon as the ball was clear from our defence, if the forward didn't win it, they made sure that the Finner defence didn't clear that easy. They were dogged. They were all over the backs all day. Serious work rate, like.
Yeah.
Shelly put in a serious shift. Like he's lightning pace. The ground didn't show them and the weather, but put the ball in front of Shamey any day. Like he's not gonna miss it. Like
Karl, I suppose come at the man, Mike Shalhoub got 3 points in the first half. He was hurling away there right up to the end. He was probably unlucky for a goal there in the second half. What a stalwart. It was a just reward, wasn't it, for kind of a lifetime's work trying to keep Clashmore hurling.
Absolutely, yeah, and carried that team throughout the entire season. We take it for granted when we won a free. Within 65 yards of the goal, Mike Shalhoub was standing over it. You had confidence that was only going over one place, and that was the black spot. It was fitting that I think Mike was the last one to touch a sliotar on the day. He shone well. Got the 3 points. Was unlucky for that goal in the second half. I think Squirrel described it as 7 inches. He was quite prescriptive and accurate. But What a ball! I mean, like we outscored, I think, Fenner what they scored in the first half. So I think we scored 1-2 in the second half, and they scored 1-1 in the first half.
Yeah, they got 1-1 exactly. Yeah.
Like, and that was a strong breeze, and against damp, wet ground, very hard to score into those goals, as it is on an ordinary dry day. But I think his contribution, like, we wouldn't have won any of the games without Mike Shalhoub's confidence over the ball and scoring. It was a fitting end.
Absolutely, Ed. I suppose we're doing wicked clapping in the backs to the forwards, considering that we were playing into a gale force wind, and basically the game, the second half was played in our own half. Some great performances from the defence too, wasn't there? I thought Kevin O'Rourke played brilliantly when he moved back to wing back. What did you think yourself?
That's right. Yeah, it was tough going in the backs there for the second half. But it is just. As the lad said, the forwards were brilliant, kind of like defenders too. It was an awful weather, it was a mud fest really. I remember even training up to the county final, the weather was nearly worse than the county final, and I remember I was marking Shamey O'Rourke above a training, and oh my God, it was just beyond, you had puddles of water up, where the top of the field is wet. It was puddles of water up there. It was just an awful run into the weather was been very bad at the time, but sure. Still, it was what a win, like you talk about the Ardmore game, how sweet it was, but like in hindsight, that was, and we did celebrate the Ardmore game, and then we went out, and in hindsight, it was such an important win, for the young, for the likes, like. Say 17 years later, was it, when we were in the All-Ireland, and you had Ty Burke hitting the ball up the field to Brian O'Halloran getting a point, like one Clashmore to another in an All-Ireland final, the lads never knew what it was like to slog it out in junior hurling, and that win was important to for younger lads, to play in that higher standard, and it was definitely a help to all them lads, to be playing a higher standard of hurling, because going, to bring them on, and that, definitely without a doubt, It was a huge win. It was a fierce, important win.
Oh, sorry. Go on again, Ed. Sorry, do you have something to say there?
No, it was a fierce, important win. We didn't really realise it at the time, how important it was to get out of junior hurling and have, for the fellas coming on, to be playing intermediate hurling, it was just for the club, it was a huge win.
Tiger, your fellow Yank picked up the man of the match award according to the paper. Stephen was outstanding in the day, wasn't he, Stephen Barron?
Oh yeah, he put in I think he was down at number 14. He might have started in the corner or something, but eventually he was drifting out. But you have to give it to the selectors. They made some serious decisions that day, and they weren't afraid of pulling a fellow off. Conor Reardon, he came on in the first half for Donald Fitzgerald. Jory came on, and Kevin going back. And Mike Shalhoub, you have to give a special mention to Mike Shalhoub there as well. What a servant to the club. And that year he was training us and trying to play at the same time, which is an impossible thing to do, and getting Shamey Hannon in when we did, I thought it was a change. It was a change for Mike, a fresh voice, and Mike could concentrate more on his hurling, which he benefited from greatly. And I met Stephen yesterday, and he was talking about the Ardmore game more than the Finner game now. But he said he'll never forget what Shamey said before the game is, don't need these Johnny come late, he's come in here and take this from me, he said, because we were knocking on the door a few years now, and Ardmore were just coming, and it was a great statement, he never forgot it. He said he still thinks of that to this day, he says,
Very good. I suppose we're after mentioning Mike Shalhoub and Shamey Hannon there. I suppose we better give a clap in the back to the other selectors on the day too. Billy O'Halloran, Mossy Curran, and Pat Dalton. There was big decisions made, wasn't there? Carl, they weren't afraid to make a big decision to turn a game as important as a county final on its head. It was very impressive.
Yeah, and the team was beginning to settle down, and you know they were getting used to the players and the substitutions. Phil D wasn't meant to start that day, and he came in and did an outstanding job in the first half. As you mentioned, look, the selectors had to make big, tough calls. I think after the game they were saying that it was a great move to put me back into cornerback. I think it was Tiger was driving on the team and wanted to move forward a little bit and driving out the ball, and he was leaving a gap behind him. So I think it was more I was trying to cover in the back. So it was.
I think I was trying to get out of there. There's too many high balls coming in.
It's so just I know we want to concentrate on our own club, but we had Jim Green on the Fenner side, and he was training them, and he's a former All-Star hurler, and he was training them, and he actually was training Stephen and myself the year before in a minor. But it was kind of bittersweet in that it was great to get one over on him. And he came in actually after the game and congratulated us, and that's important. That's what the GAA is all about. He came in, he shook his hand, and he wished us all the best. And I thought that was a fitting touch from an outstanding Waterford hurler, and it meant so much. As well as having Shamey Hannon in the dressing room. I mean, these guys don't come around too often, but there was two big stalwarts of hurling in our dressing room at the time, and it was a fitting end, I thought.
Very good, yeah. I suppose the party started. Most importantly, the meal was booked in the Park Hotel. We moved on there, Ed. I presume you gave a few words to your adoring public again when you got a pint in your hand and a microphone in the other one inside the Park Hotel, did you?
Yeah, I'm just barely. 20 years is a long time ago, Johnny. The memory isn't the best, but we did celebrate it. We did celebrate it and celebrate it with gusto, it was brilliant, and there were different times too, I suppose. We had 4 pubs in the village, and they were all going every Saturday night. You go down, there was a crowd around, and there was more, you know what I mean? Things were going well, and we really did enjoy it.
Any special memory of the celebrations, Tiger?
A little bit, yeah. I remember, after the park, we celebrated in Clashmore for nearly a week, and we went into Rogers for a day or two. And I just remember then, I think it was the first Friday in December, there was a few busloads went up to Ballyduff into the log cabin. It was a serious celebration, up to me, Shamey, up to me, Shamey. Yeah. I just vaguely remember that night there was a few lads thrown out of the bar because they couldn't keep their clothes on. I won't mention their names or anything, but not looking at anyone here on the screen.
I suppose, Karl, you were saying to me too off air, you just wanted to give a notable mention while you got the chance that in 2000 we lost the club president. I'll hand that over to you.
Yeah, I was looking through the records. When you said you'd organise this event, I was kind of going, geez, I can't remember the game, and I was looking for the records, and thankfully the notes actually are all published up online there, and thanks to all the note keepers and recording all the matches, because it's very important records to look back on. And I was kind of looking at context when you're able to sit back a little bit more. When you're in the heart of the game, you're only concentrating on the game. You don't see the wider context. But reading the notes there, our president died that year, Joseph O'Keeffe, and that was in August. And it probably unified the club a little bit. Joseph would have been former president of the club and was orchestrated, I suppose, the combination of Clashmore and Kinsalebeg, the club as we know it today, and was instrumental in '69 for the double victories, in particular the hurling, which was the last time we won the hurling before we won it in 2000 after his passing. it's those little things that matter for the clubs. And I just thought, special mention there to him, and also to the O'Keeffe family, Timmy, and his family as well, who, took the club on and drove it to a good point in both football and hurling.
Very good. Before I get your final thoughts or statements off you, we've an exciting addition to the show this week. We're introducing a competition, kindly sponsored by Flavin's Final and Sports Injury Clinic in Youghal, for all your back pain needs. The club's first ever All-Star, Tyg de Burka, is sitting at home twiddling his thumbs at the moment, like everyone else, given the COVID-19 disaster. So he's taken to making hurleys. So he's offered to make a Tyg de Burka, a specially designed Tyg de Burka hurley for one of our lucky younger viewers. So to enter, all you have to do is, you could see that the camera quality for the match wasn't what you'd be used to nowadays. So it was recorded on a thing called a tape. So what I want you to do is, if you're under the age of, 24, find out what a tape was. Either get a tape or draw a picture of a tape and send the picture, attach it to our Facebook page in some way, and we'll enter you into the draw. If there is, we might even get Tyg to make a few of them. So that's a great competition. A signed Tyg de Burka hurley made by Tyg de Burka himself. So we'd like to thank the good people at Flavin's Final and Sports Injury Clinic for providing that competition. Now back to the lads for one quick roundup. Karl, anything else you want to say before I let you go?
No, winning's a habit. Ed said it at the start. We won the football in '99. We won it in 2000, and I've been lucky to be part of such a great club with such great community and players, and they'll be friends for life. Nothing brings people together better than winning. And it's important that the club continues in that fashion. It was great to see the intermediate Western final won last year. I think we have the players, we have the stock coming through that we can build on the lessons learned in the past and put the club where it needs to be.
Fantastic. Brian, you look back at it with fond memories, I'd say. Was it a golden era in your life? What's your final thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, it was great to be part of it, Johnny. As Karl said, the camaraderie around him was outstanding. It was great to win it. It was a step up. It was our first time playing intermediate. It was great to get out in junior ranks. As Ed said earlier, it's just a dogfight and that great. And it was great to some of the players now that don't have to play in it. Other than that, just great memories. I was delighted to be asked to be part of this, and it was good to remember things like that.
And I leave the final word on the game to the captain, fantastic himself. Ed, it was a unique group to be captain of and to win a county title, because it disbanded almost immediately, didn't it? It was like one of those Hollywood movies. Like the team that fielded for championship the following spring or summer in intermediate was far changed from that hand. It was that probably leaves the legacy of that team all the sweeter. That was it. It achieved its goal. Job done, move on, new thing in life. It was a special one to be captain of, I'd say.
It was an honour, and great memories, and you'll never forget them, and there was a lot of older lads in the team retired. There was lads who went away. I was guilty myself. I went away. But that's life too, I suppose. You're young. I was 20 or 22, and that's the way it is. People go away, and all the lads retire. It's the same in every club, but you've got lads as well to replace them, and that's the way it is. And you're playing with all your neighbours and your friends and your family, and that's what it's all about. And definitely, it was the highlight of my career. And thanks for asking again for this thing. It was great. And I suppose finally, I think there's one more lifting on the current team. I reckon we could. There's another shouting us yet. We definitely. I think there's another go on us. No doubt about it. And we could follow up 2018.
So
Whatever's going to happen this year,
I'd like to thank the three lads for their contribution to tonight's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know the lock-up and the lock-in, or whatever we're calling it, is starting to wear thin on a lot of us. I hope this gives you a bit of light relief on your weekend, and I'd like to thank the three lads for contributing. I think it was a bit of fun and we all enjoyed it, so I'd like to thank Karl, Tiger and Ed for their contribution. Then the other man, of course, that needs thanking again is Fintan Welch, our producer and stage manager, and another Trojan effort made behind the scenes. I don't have to thank my researcher Declan Hickey this week because we got rid of him, thank God. I do hope that you're all keeping well at home, and that we do get to see each other soon. I know I said it last time. I can't wait to see you all back in Priorfield for a championship game, and it will happen. I know the news can be depressing and all the rest of it. We will be back together as a community and as a club, and we look forward to it, and we will be all the stronger for it. So we look forward to seeing you there. Finally, we'll also have the full video of the game up on YouTube for you to see. So if you didn't want to listen to us rambling on for an hour, you could just watch the full match. But unfortunately, you would have watched us ramble on for an hour to find out that the full game is also up on YouTube. So if you want more action after watching all of this, go and watch the full game. It's up there, and there's some fantastic interviews at the end conducted by Kieran O'Connor, and he interviews all sorts of local celebrities. So that's probably a lot better than this video, but I hope you enjoy both. So sincerely, clocking out now. Look after yourselves. Can't wait to see you all soon. Over and out.